All right, let's talk about Dillon Gabriel. I'm working through the whole draft class, doing film breakdowns on the entire draft class. And now we are at Dillon Gabriel, one of the most talked about picks with him. And it's been interesting seeing the dynamic, at least from viewers on this channel, with Dillon. He was drafted. I think the reaction to him being drafted was outsized in the negative, right? Like just far too negative for a guy who's being picked at 90. I thought the people were acting like he picked Dillon Gabriel in the first 2 rounds, and it was a bit much. But then, in response to that energy, came in a wave of Dillon Gabriel support that I felt like kind of went not too far, but just like was a bit not even a bit, very generous to Dillon, almost so generous that I think it's not good for anybody trying to get a good eval on him. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to look at the good and the bad with Dillon Gabriel. What he does well, what he doesn't do well, and why, some teams might make sense of him being a late 3rd, early 4th guy, why some teams might not see him as a day 2 pick and really just more fits in that day 3 category. There's a lot to look at here with Dillon. 6-year career, spans 3 colleges, UCF, which is now a Big 12 school. At the time, they were in the American Conference. The Oklahoma, who was in the old Big 12, and then Oregon, his last year in college in the Big 10. Here's the one thing with Dillon. I don't really care much for his production this last year at Oregon. And it's not because he didn't do a good job executing the offense. It's more because the offense itself, very Mickey Mouse, right? The offense Oregon runs is a Mickey Mouse offense. It is not anything that projects well to the NFL. Just to put this in perspective, I think 68% of Dillon Gabriel's passes were 10 yards or under. The bulk of these passes were dump offs and a lot of screens, a lot of extended handoffs. That's the primary thing that Dillon Gabriel did at Oregon. So yes, there's a lot of production, but it's not true passer production. So I don't really care much for his production at Oregon. Oregon has been a notoriously hard place to grade quarterbacks, right? Justin Herbert was undervalued because of that Oregon offense. Bo Nix was undervalued potentially because of that Oregon offense. And I think you look at Dillon Gabriel, and some people can make the argument that he's undervalued based on that Oregon offense. So understanding that we're looking at the last year of his college tape and the offense that it comes into, there's going to be some criticisms here that are more or less questions with Dillon. I don't have access to his UCF tape. I don't have access to his Oklahoma tape, right? I only have access to what he did last year. And when I look at what he did last year, it brings up some questions. Now, is it the offense? Is it Dillon Gabriel? Is Dillon Gabriel just a perfect fit for the offense because he doesn't want to do the things that the offense doesn't want to do? These are the questions you have to ask with Dillon Gabriel to get an answer. Because if you just watch the tape, it can sometimes appear that he's scared. This is a perfect example. This Rose Bowl game is a perfect example of it. The Oregon Ducks were down 28 points to Ohio State before the end of the first half. So you would think that there's going to be a lot of pushing the ball downfield, a lot of being aggressive from Dillon Gabriel in this game, taking shots, because that's what's necessary when you're down by that much. But instead, this game, Dillon Gabriel threw about 65% of his passes, still down all those points, 10 yards or less. That giant red flag. Giant red flag. It's one thing if you don't want to throw the ball downfield because that's what the offense does and you stay ahead of the sticks and Oregon plays well, you don't have to worry about that. Okay, that's just the offense. I can have an issue with that, right? But if you're going down by a ton of points against an explosive team like Ohio State and you're not willing to push the ball downfield, Giant red flag as far as being a starter. Here's what I mean, right? This is a perfect example. They're down by a ton of points at this time of the game. Remember, Ohio State just jumped out on him to start. He throws a check down here. Now, if we look at the design of the play, he has the out here, right? And his eyes are working left to right on to start this play. So this isn't a pick a side situation. So he has this out. This is the coverage they wanted, right? Look at the body of this defender. Safety playing deep. So you know you can pull him in, and he's pulling towards the hash. So you have what you want here. It's a tough throw. And the question here is, can you make the throw? Is that why you decided not to do it? You can't throw it. You don't want it to get intercepted. So that's why you threw the check down. Like, is that a part of it? Could you just not see it because you're 5'11", almost 5'10"? Like, he's an eighth of an inch away from being 5'10". That's like a iPhone width of the iPhone away from being 5'10", right? Like, it's not much. And you just couldn't see it. But you see here, the safety takes the tight end. He should be looking at this, see that, get the out here. Ransom's not going to make it. That's a first down on third down here, right? And keep in mind where the sticks are. Sticks are right here. So this would have been a first down. Instead, what happens is he takes the check down. Now, again, is this Oregon's offense? It might be just Oregon's offense. Maybe this is what Dan Lanning wants him to do. Maybe this is because he can't push the ball downfield, or at least can't throw the out with enough velocity to feel confident about it. Maybe that's the reason. Maybe it's because he can't see. But these are the questions you have when you watch Dillon Gabriel, and why a lot of people don't feel good about him as a draft pick, and some people feel good about him, is because you can answer these questions with different things. Oh, it's just the offense. Now you're not concerned about it. This is all over his tape, though. You know, so whatever answer you come up with is going to dictate how you feel about Dillon Gabriel, and this is why he's such a polarizing prospect. There's a question of, can he find passing lanes? He's not big. He's 5'11" and 1/8 inch. So another eighth of an inch shorter, or a little bit more than a hair of an eighth of an inch. He's 5'10". Now, he's taller than Bryce Young. He's taller than Kyler Murray. But Bryce Young was an elite passer at the college football level, an elite processor, one of the best improvisers we've ever seen in the SEC. That's who Bryce Young was. Kyler Murray is one of the most spectacular athletes at the quarterback position. And he's yoked, right? Go look at Kyler Murray now. He's like 220, big, strong, moves fast. So, yeah, he can be 5'10". Dillon Gabriel, the question with him, okay, you're short. That's one thing. I'm not going to discount you just because you're short. The question is, how do you make up for your lack of height? Do you have the craziest arm for somebody who's 5'10" ever, or 5'11"? Do you have amazing athletic ability, like Mike Vick did at 6 foot, like Kyler Murray has at 5'10"? Or are you the most accurate, best processor, best outside the pocket guy that at least Bryce Young was at Alabama? And then when you try to transition Bryce Young to the pros, we saw what the problems were with him and how he has not lived up to the expectations yet as a number 1 overall pick. So does height matter? Yes. Are there ways to make height not matter? Yes. Does Dillon Gabriel possess any of those skills naturally that makes it so that the height doesn't matter? No. Right? Like, he's not a great athlete on the level of Kyler Murray. He's a fine athlete, but he's not a great athlete. His arm's cool, but it's not the most amazing arm you ever seen. And when it comes to his ability to process, his improvising ability, it's pretty good. especially for the college level. It's not Bryce Young level. It's not unreal God tier stuff that Bryce Young was doing at Alabama. It's far from that. And that's no disrespect to him. Like, it's pretty good for a college quarterback, but again, you're talking about you need to be so much better at 5'10 or 5'11 playing in the NFL. You could just see him right now trying to see over his offensive line, right? This is difficult for him. He never gets from outside that box, too, when he drops back. And you'll see this throughout his break. He has to stay super deep in the pocket. Now, he had a great offensive line at Oregon, so he was able to get away with this, right? But what does it look like if the offensive line's not great at the next level? And even when the offensive line is great, look, the offensive line's doing a great job here. Josh Connerly gets a nice little set here, anchors, boom, gives ground slowly. Johnny Cornelius doing a fine job there on Jack Sawyer. Interiors holding up real well. Great help by the left guard. And even then, can't move, find the pass lane. Ball gets tipped, intercepted, or close to an interception. He didn't catch it. It's another one, right? Notice how he doesn't have the ability to step up, because if he steps up, he can't throw over the offensive lineman, right? Because he's short. The left-handed part, I don't really care about, but he's short. Top of his drop, he's here. Naturally, you would want a guy to step up, but he can't step up here, right, into the pocket because he can't see over it. So instead, he just stands there, whips this ball, and he can't drive it into that window either. And I'm not just going off of Dillon Gabriel is short because I've seen him on TV. I was at the Senior Bowl. I've seen this dude. I've stood next to him. He's not very tall. And again, did he just not see the linebacker? Was that because of his height? Or was he trying to drive this ball past the linebacker and he couldn't drive it because his arm's not that strong? You know, these problems are only going to be amplified more at the next level. So anybody selling you like, oh man, it don't matter that he's 5'11". I mean, they're setting you up to shit on Dillon Gabriel in the future, because it's gonna matter that he's 5'11". The question is, does he have the skills to work around that, right? Let's look at the processing stuff, right? Because again, if you're 5'11", you gotta be God tiered something to make it in the NFL, right? It's kind of like a 5'10" point guard in the NBA. You gotta be amazing at something in order to make it at that height. Quarterback 5'11", you got to be God tiered something, right? Is he a God tier processor? He's a good processor. He's not an amazing processor. Sometimes he's late. I would say a good amount of times he's late. Right? This one right here, whatever reason, he comes off this route from Ferguson, doesn't want to take it, works back, and then throws this late. Guy falls. Could have also had the wide receiver coming across the field. He threw with anticipation here. Why doesn't he let that ball go? Maybe he can't let go of it because the pocket is too congested. Even though it's a clean pocket, it's just there's no lane there for him to throw through. So he throws this late and almost gets intercepted. It's third down. They're off the field. Right? The same way when I went through Shador's tape, I wasn't just going to sell you rainbows, sunshines, and oh my God, we found our guy. Right? That is a very dangerous practice because it's going to get people excited about somebody, not realize that guy has flaws that you have to work around, and then people just expect unreal things from that player when you do that. So I did the same thing to Shador. I went through his flaws and said, hey, this is what he needs to correct. The question with Dillon Gabriel is this something you can correct? Because the problem might just be he can't see. And the reason he can't see, because he's not tall. Now, look, I'm not hating on short people. I'm a short king myself. But that's just the reality of being short. There's some shit you can't do. Right? Like, why didn't he see this come open? It's wide receiver has leverage. You can say, oh, the pressure got to him, but he creates the pressure by running into it. Right? Like, that's just running into the pressure. He had all the time in the world to stand there, look at it. So either he can't process it, he didn't see it, he doesn't trust himself to throw it. But you got to figure out what the answer to that is, right? And then you throw this one late. I don't understand why you threw this one at this point. And that's almost a disaster. Let's go through another one here, right? Another one where he's late. So the route I'm going to highlight is here. It's over, right? Simple concept. You want to hit this one in stride somewhere near the break. Well, let's see what happens here, right? Get the over. Work through. Okay, cool. You had to break out the pocket here, but you're out the lane. All right, let it loose though. Let it loose. You see it right now. Let it loose. Let it loose. What took so long? Why did that take so long to get out? Now this time it's not height. This wasn't height. Height has nothing to do with why this took forever to come out, right? There's nobody in his way. It's not height. Can't blame that on height. Now, what can you blame this on? I think it's obvious. He needs to put a lot of his body into this to get this ball to drive. Again, arm talent is the ability to just throw the ball without having to exert your entire body to do it. That's why Cam Ward went number 1 overall to the Titans, whether we agree with that evaluation or not, because he was the only guy in the draft class that had undeniable arm talent. You cannot deny that Cam Ward can flick that ball as good as anybody. Dillon Gabriel, if he wants to throw this ball, he has to add some gather steps, right? Right here, he makes the decision. I want to throw this football right here. He gathers, then he throws. By the time he's ready to let that ball go, it's late. Ohio State almost catches up with it, and this is what I worry about with him in the pros. He has to do a lot to get his body to be able to throw this football at a high level. Like a lot. That's a lot of gather steps there, right? That's a lot of going downhill. Like we talked about Shador having to get downhill a little bit to throw the ball downfield, and that was a concern. He does like a quarter of this to gather. Like he sees it right here. He decides, and then it's like a whole gather. And then it doesn't even drive into the receiver. It floats, hangs on him. Okay, so they're in an empty set. I think this is probably like an end of half situation because it looks like a Hail Mary type situation. And again, it's like, hey, man, just rip it downfield. You got the post, throw the post, rip it downfield. See what happens. You guys are getting your ass kicked. Be aggressive. He's scared to be aggressive here. Why? Is it because he can't see anything? Because he doesn't want to throw it? I mean, like, look at what happens here on this exchange here near the goal line. Right? So you have this receiver finishing on this post, this receiver finishing on this post, and this action works. He never gets rid of this ball. Boom. Boom. You got to get rid of that ball there. And he can't get rid of it. Why? Because he has to do a huge gather to get this shit off. He has to get so much momentum behind him to get this ball off. Look, he took 3 steps towards the target. before he even started his throwing motion. You're going to have even less time in the NFL. So those are the concerns with him. That's why the height matters. That's why the arm strength matters. I know people are like, oh, well, he's an amazing processor. He's a good processor, but not an amazing processor. An amazing processor is getting this ball off with the anticipation right now, and that's going to be a touchdown. And you can say that's an unrealistic expectation for me. But that's what amazing processing is. It's unrealistic. It's unrealistic because it's crazy. That's what amazing is. He's a okay processor. And that's fine. And I think that could be good enough for him to be a backup. But if you're a starting quarterback in the NFL, this is the kind of shit you got to make, right? These are the kind of throws you got to be willing to take. You see that safety creep up, you got to think to yourself, all right, I'm throwing this bitch right behind him, right? But if you got to do all this to get the ball off, then it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Now, that's not to say that Dillon Gabriel is a terrible football player. He is not a terrible football player, right? There are times where he makes some plays and he looks very good. This is an example. Gets that ball off, he overthrows it. But he's not a terrible football player. He has some stuff to work on, and I don't want to make it seem like that. I know the beginning of this video was not the most positive, but I don't want to make it out to be like he's this awful player. Right. It's like, this is legitimately impressive, this throw. Right. This is working in the pocket, seeing over guys, staying in there and throwing out of a legitimately tough window. Now, there's two ways to look at this. This is very impressive. Can he do this consistently? I look at this and go, there's no way this is sustainable, man. Like, look at this shit. Look how difficult this is to get out. Look how much shit had to go right for that ball to get out, even though he's doing everything right. Even though the offensive line is doing everything right. Look how much had to go right. And I think that's ultimately going to be the problem for him as a starter in the NFL and why he makes more sense as a backup. And he can make some plays out of structure. He kind of reminds me of modern day Russ, right? If you're asking me what is the absolute best Dillon Gabriel can be, it's a slightly less effective version of modern day Russ, right? He can scoot a little bit, not a terrible scooter, right? A little bit of pep in that step for him. Not amazing, but solid. You know, he's not Russell Wilson in his prime. He's not gonna run away from guys. He's not Kyler Murray. He's gonna get tackled down here, right? Another example of that. Right here. He just gets kind of pulled down. So he's not gonna be the most amazing escape artist you've ever seen in your life. But he can escape. He can make plays, kind of like a modern day Russ is. I think he'd be, again, slightly less effective version of that. What he specializes in is his deep and intermediate throwing whenever he chooses to do it, which is not often. Again, last year at Oregon, almost 70% of his passes behind 10 yards. But when he looks his best as a quarterback is when he's attacking the numbers. He can push the ball downfield well. He throws with good accuracy and anticipation there. And I think there is more to glean there for him. So you can use him like you would use Russell Wilson. Like, that's a throw you see Russ make all the time. It's a good throw there, right? There are more impressive throws that you're going to see. It's another play here by Dillon. Rolls out, and then boom, makes a great read here on the run to get this to this tight end. That turns into a big play. It's the play here with Michigan. He rolls through, runs through the Michigan defense. I mean, those are decent athletes there. He's not Kyler Murray. but he's not chopped liver as an athlete, right? He probably runs like 4.7, maybe high 4.6s. Right? Knows how to run and set up his blocks. He can be pretty nifty there, right? Again, Russ back in the day, he's not Russ from like Super Bowl era Russ. Like when Russ was out here running 4.5 40s. That's not Dillon, right? When Russ was out here working the middle of the field and running around looking like Fran Tarkenton, that's not Dillon. Dillon is the Russ you see today. A slightly less effective version of that, because I still think the Russ of today processes a lot better and is a better thrower of the football overall. He just doesn't need to get as much behind him to get the ball off as far as Dillon Gabriel does on tape. So, I don't think he's at where current day Russ is. I think he's slightly below him, which is why I think he's a backup in the NFL. We'll see what he shows us, but that's why I think he's backup. But, when Russ out here running 4.6, 4.65 nowadays, that kind of looks like Russ, right? I think that's what you see with Dillon. Gets here, works through, runs out. He can make a nice play like that, right? His best stuff is when he breaks the pocket, gets outside, and he makes an improvised play. I think in structure, he's not that great. But once he gets out of structure a little bit, that's when you see the fun stuff here, right? Like this is a great play by him. A great play by Dillon. This is impressive. Nice throw. Look at that. It's on target. It's a beautiful throw. And that layers over one. Look at that. Right? That's what you want to see from him. I think he's better when he gets outside because he's free of the limitations of being as small as he is. I think he does a good job throwing the ball with anticipation as well. We'll see this here against Michigan. Great fade ball, outside shoulder. You're going to watch it here. Bam. Look at that. It's a tight window to fit it in. Now, I have questions about whether he can drive into a tight window 20, 30 yards downfield. I have not seen him ever consistently do that. That is a big concern for me. Because, again, if you can't drive the ball into tight windows consistently 20, 30 yards downfield, you're not going to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. But this kind of stuff right here is useful for a team. Maybe as a backup. If you draft the backup, pick 90, it's not really a bad thing. Right? This one right here, deep ball. He could push it downfield. Don't know about the velocity and the zip on it, but he could push it downfield with accuracy. That's what separates him from a guy like DTR who couldn't be a backup in the NFL. This is why I think he's better than DTR. Definitely can be a backup because he can push the ball downfield with accuracy and anticipation. I just don't know if he can do it consistently, right? This is another ball. Works the middle, runs, gets a little loose here, right? Breaks the pocket. Nice throw. This is a big play for Oregon here. Yeah, it's a good Michigan defense. I think Will Johnson was still healthy on this side, right? Notice that a lot of these plays are what? He's breaking out the pocket. It makes sense, right? The problem in the NFL, you can only have so much success breaking out the pocket. So another question that you have for Shedeur, how often he breaks out the pocket, right? It's my biggest criticism about him. Well, and look, these are beautiful throws that he's making out the pocket. Same as Shedeur. Shedeur has some of the nicest throws you'll ever see in college football out the pocket. And sometimes he makes those throws in the pocket. The question is, can he be more disciplined in that pocket? But here's another throw from Dillon, just to bring the point home. Man can push the ball downfield enough to open up your offense, enough to be a backup in the league. The question is, can he be a starter? There's a lot of questions you have to answer about him before you're sure that he could be a starter. And these questions can only be answered by having him play in the NFL. So we'll find out those answers over the course of the season. That's my breakdown on Dillon Gabriel. I think from the tape, from what I can see, giving him the benefit of the doubt that a lot of the short stuff that he did at Oregon was because of Oregon, I would say he feels like somebody who's going to come to the league And I think he can play around that level, maybe slightly below where Russell Wilson is. Now is the comp that I kind of came to during the video. And now that the video's over, I'm settling on that comp. So that's why I sit with him. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Y'all have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.